As mentioned in a previous video, I left my main box of plumbing tools in Paris when I'd gone to the house in Loir-et-Cher, not realising how efficient the French would be in changing the water meter over and getting the water turned on. So I've had to find a solution while I'm there, because I found a leak on the bathroom tap. And I found a plumber's merchants not far from where I was staying in La Ferté-Bernard. Really helpful guy, really efficient, another efficient Frenchman, which sold me these compression fittings. As you can see there, I'm struggling a bit because I'm holding the camera with one hand and trying to connect the fittings with the other. In the UK, we would use a standard isolating valve, compression isolating valve. They don't do that in France. It tends to be slightly more complicated. You can get the valves that are just one unit, but they tend to prefer to do it like that. So here I am adding a bit of PTFE or Teflon tape to the threads of the valve, or the van as they call it in France. Give it a few turns, and as I said in the previous video, they don't do 15mm in copper in France. They do even numbered, so 12mm or 14mm, etc. So I'm currently working on 14mm pipe. The other thing about 14mm copper pipe in France, in fact in all copper tubing in France, it's quite a bit thicker than British copper. If you see the previous video, you'll see there's two tails coming up that was feeding the bath, and one bit of pipe is considerably thicker than the other. They're both 14mm, but one's marginally thicker, and that is going to cause me a little bit of a problem in the upcoming part of this video. So I haven't got my tools, I haven't got my spanners with me. All I've got is a pair of mole grips and an adjustable wrench. So it's a bit Heath Robinson, me trying to put it all together, but needs must, and you always have to find a solution to whatever problem you come across. I wasn't. I need water, obviously, at the house, just for washing my hands and stuff like that. I'm currently buying bottled water for drinking, because I imagine that the system would need to run a little while before take the chance of actually drinking. The water's fresh from the taps, and also the taps are pretty knackered. They're filthy. They've got slight leaks on them as well. So at the moment, being prudent and drinking bottled water, which probably comes from a tap somewhere in the south of France anyway, in real terms. So I've got my fittings together. Now we've got the two pipes. So the pipe on the left hand side there is the thicker of the two pipes. They're both, like I say, 14mm. They're running from 60mm pipe, which is running horizontally. And then they put a T-piece, they've soldered a T-piece on and reduced it down to 14mm. And can I get the nut on and the olive? Can I bugger it? So one, easily. The right hand side is easy. Left hand side is just not going to happen. So what do you do in this situation? You've got to try and reduce down the thickness of the copper. I didn't have any wire wool on me either, because that was in my box in Paris. So I did have some wet and dry. So I then spent a considerable amount of time rubbing down the pipe work to try and get it so that the actual fitting would fit over the pipe work, and then I could then once I got the valves on there, eventually I can turn the water back on and just check there's no further leaks, nothing that's going to cause me any further problems, just while I'm cracking on with the other bits of work. So the nut's gone on, but the olive doesn't want to play ball. the olive is, so I'm trying to use the valve itself. What you don't want to be doing is tapping the olive directly with anything like a hammer or whatever, because you don't want to damage the surface of the olive, and you don't want to make it so that it, how would you say, deforms. Yeah, okay, we'll say that. So I then found an old fitting that was lying around, and I'm going to use that, put it on there and tap with the fitting, so the fittings come to be supporting the olive. And when I start tapping, eventually, it's going to drive the olive down slightly into the pipe. It's going to be a very, very, there you go. You can't actually see the fitting because my hand's in the way of it. But I'm currently using a fitting to support the olive to tap down onto or into the pipe, so that it's at least at the same level as the end of the pipe. And with that, then I can then get the valve on and start to tighten the nut with my two bits of kit that I have. So I haven't got any spanners with me. I've only got mole grips and an adjustable wrench. It's not ideal for plumbing, but needs must. So the first valve's on. Tighten it up. Playing around a little bit there, trying to get my angles right so I can do it without too much difficulty. Obviously, if you've got a spanner, an adjustable spanner, it's so much easier, or two adjustable spanners, it's so much easier. It's less bulky to play around with and quicker. Right, so first valve is on the awkward tap, on the awkward pipe, and the second valve goes straight on because that 40mm pipe was marginally thinner in section. Like I said, they are both 14mm, but one was thicker than the other. So tighten that up as well. Again, faffing about with the mole grips and the adjustable wrench. Turn the valve off. Make sure the valves are definitely off before we start. Here's some typical French fittings, just for you can see. You've got a compression fitting there, which is a valve. You've got a reducer, which is a push fit. You've got a stop end, 14mm there, which is a push fit also. Well, push fit's obviously more expensive, but it's obviously saves a lot of faffing around. And then connecting piece, which is 14mm as well. It shows you the diameter. And then here we are. We're going to test the system, see what happens. Turn the valve on, and I can hear hissing coming from the kitchen. And I've forgotten to turn off the robinet, the tap in the kitchen, and you can see the tap's pretty knackered. Anyway, it's going to have to be, what I'll do is I'll disconnect the flexible hoses there and put a couple of stop ends on there. And the next time I'm there, because I will be more prudent and taken my fittings from Paris with me. And then we're just going to check that the valves are leaking. Left hand side's fine. The right hand side actually had a very, very, very slight leak, just needed pinching a little bit more just to stop, but happy with that. And thanks to the guys that helped me out in the plumbing merchants in La Ferté-Bernard. And thanks for watching this video.